Hello and welcome to the vlog, where I am in reverse, backing out of the visitor moorings at Netherwich Basin in Droitwich and heading back the way I've come to the River Severn. Past the Pamela May, that's a charity trip boat that takes disadvantaged people out on day trips. They're fundraising for a new boat. And on through this weird corrugated tunnel whose bottom is also circular, so you have to stick right by the towpath in order to maintain depth under the keel. Alas, 'twas here I first got stones chucked at me by those miscreant youths on the bridge. They knew I was watching and waited until I'd gone through, then chucked a stone from behind the bushes. Only a chip in the paint, luckily. Swiftly back to the top lock of 8 to come before the River Severn. And soon after, bliss, a boater coming up, so not only the gates open for me, but the remaining locks might well all be full, saving me the time for filling them up. This is the penultimate lock. It's the one I stayed next to on the way up. Today it was opened for me by a maintenance bloke from the Canal and River Trust, which was jolly decent of him. He went ahead to set the next one too. Just before I got there, this cute little scene of parent and child. Alright, here we go then, back out onto the mighty River Severn. It's flat calm today and levels are low, so this should be fine. Let's get out onto the channel while nothing's coming. Immediately round the corner, a sign about an underwater obstruction, as well as the impending lock and weir. This bloke seems to have navigated past both with no problem, so I should be fine. Yes, you wouldn't want to get that tangled in the propeller, I don't think. Speaking of signs, is it me in my befuddled old age, or does that sign with the arrow seem to suggest you need to turn right, straight into the bank? It does, doesn't it? But that's a solid wall. It was unnerving, so I shut my eyes and ignored it. Past another weir of doom, although Doom was on his day off today, thankfully. And into the humongous lock, where something rather odd happened. There's no current in the lock, surely, and no wind, and yet as I tried to go alongside the right-hand wall, the boat pushed itself over to the left, just as I was reaching out to grab one of the tying up points. Look, here it goes, and I am steering right at this point. I had to do a quick bit of manoeuvring and reverse over to the other side, all of the while looking nonchalant, as if to say to the lockkeeper above, yeah, I meant to do that all the while. I can only assume there must be a playful lock poltergeist in there. It's not the poltergeist who closes the gates though, that, less excitingly, is down to hydraulics. Like a Star Trek alien, I've managed to cling on to the sides with my centreline as I descend, and the chap up there is keeping a beady eye on proceedings. Free and alone in the middle of a mighty river, I can now power downstream at up to 8 miles an hour if I want to. For a canal user, this is practically speedboat territory, and I think I went at about 6. This was judged by peering at the vegetation zooming past the side of the boat at dizzying speed. Are these the Severn swans are swimming? That's Severn as in the river. I can see there's only 5. Oh, never mind. Worcester beckons, home of the source, and this is the outskirts. Behind those trees ahead on the left is Worcester Racecourse, which is legendary for flooding any time the river rises, which it does a lot. You can just make out the white railings that are the edge of the racetrack. Rivers are notorious for having limited places to stop, unlike canals, so note here the moorings on the left at the racecourse. There is a fee for using them. I think it's something like a £5 a night. Also, not all of this space is available, some of it belongs to the rowing club, as indicated by the signs. That's a pedestrian bridge, with the rail and road bridges beyond. And that's the rowing club. It's much easier with an engine. There's Worcester Cathedral in the distance, and the main, indeed the only road bridge for the city, which I'm about to go under. The cathedral was founded in the year 680, although there have been rebuilds since then. The present building dates from 1084. It's all good historic stuff. Let's get under that bridge and see if there are any trolls. No trolls, but all those white dots ahead and to the left are swans. So many of them. It's the Swanee River, which means I appear to be up the Swanee and without a paddle too. Reminds me of that scene with the seagulls in Finding Nemo. Coming up on the left, though you can't really see it from here, is the entrance to the Birmingham and Worcester Canal, which, as the name implies, goes from Birmingham to Worcester. If I turned left here, I'd eventually end up ascending the massive Tardybig flight of 30 locks, which frankly is too much on my own. There's a locky helping anyone lock in and out from the river. It's very well hidden, but the entrance is underneath where that lock is. This is a better view of it, and there is a boat waiting to come out onto the river, but luckily the locky has advised them I'm coming past, so they're holding off until there's clear space. It's like air traffic control, but at really slow speeds. The long line of orange buoys indicates what lies ahead. It's Diglis Lock, the last one on this trip for me. If I get to another one, I will have gone too far. I had to hang around here for a bit while the lock was set, but rather than stop on the lock landing, I just practised staying in one place on the throttle. I thought I'd cunningly defeat the lock poltergeists by going in on the left to start with this time. That way they couldn't push me over in that direction. Notice again, flat calm, low river levels, nothing to affect the boat. So how the dickens did it push its nose out to the right this time? Again with me steering left to grab the lines you're supposed to tie up to. Once again, I ended up pretending I'd been aiming for the other side all along, despite the locky apparently having waved at me to stay left, which I didn't spot. Diglis Lock, the second Severn lock on my journey today, is the last one I should do. If I get to another one, I've gone too far. There's one just below Tewkesbury, so I need to have turned round and gone in up the mouth of the Avon before I get to the next lock. And that's about 17 miles away, so it'll take about 3.5 hours, I suppose, at about 5 miles an hour. Could be a little less if we get a move on. And a move on I certainly got. I think the engine quite likes having a bit of a run. Past this holiday park, and onwards under the Southern Worcester Road Bridge, which is really not in Worcester at all, but on the very outskirts. Lots more interesting riverboats to look at moored here. Oh, that's a nice bit of countryside view. Cool, what a whopper! Unlike when I started down the Severn, this time I was well out of the trip boat's way. I waved at them, the passengers and crew waved at me. It was all very jolly and cordial. I tell you something, it is substantially less warm than I anticipated today, and I am really regretting not having a flask of nice hot tea here on the deck. I've got a cold drink, but I want tea. And of course, no easy place to stop on the river, but I was making good time, so good in fact that I began to catch up this hire boat ahead of me. Of course, overtaking on a narrowboat is not quite Formula 1 action. Think more of trying to race snails doped with ketamine and you have something of the idea. It took 20 minutes for me to catch up and another 5 before I crawled ahead, but I was enjoying the novelty of speed in the boat, so I didn't want to dawdle behind. This, needless to say, is sped up footage of that overtaking, with fortunately lots of clear space all around. Soon after, in a rare moment of dreadful congestion, one other boat came the other way. In the distance, Severn Bank House, Grade 2 listed and last on the market for just under £2 million in 2010, 8 bedrooms, a pool and dates from the 18th century. My guidebook had warned me about gravel barges nearby, although it said I shouldn't see them until a little further downstream, but no matter, this was quite interesting to see, and the people aboard waved hello as well. Round the corner, and here's one on the move. They can get quite a shift on. No sleepy snails here. It's quite interesting when you go through the wake of these other boats coming the other way. You feel the whole vibration of the propeller changing. The vibrations sort of come up through your feet. And I presume because of all the churning water and the boat coming the other way, it just gives the prop a bit of a workout. It's a very disconcerting feeling actually, but it was purely down to the wash. At this point you find what is, I think, the only mooring spot between Worcester and Tewkesbury at Upton-on-Severn. Because it's the only one, it can get really busy here and hard to find a space, although not today. You can go either side of that mooring pontoon and there's pubs and shops in the village, so a nice place for an overnight pause. From Upton to Tewkesbury is 6 miles, so that should take me an hour and 12 minutes. It should put me at Tewkesbury just after 1 o'clock, which is good time. Upton Marina is marked in my book as having CRT water and Elsan points, but it's not clear if you have to pay for them, what with the marina being private. So I didn't stop, but went on past another gravel barge, and then past the wharf where they're filled, albeit that everyone's clearly on their lunch break at this point. This watchtower with the line strung across the river definitely confused me. I wondered if it was some kind of rope ferry thing, but the book says it's just a cable. Meanwhile, the cows showed me their bottoms, which was charming. It looks so calm and peaceful, and by and large it was, but I did start to notice a lot more floating debris in the river by this point, lots of fairly chunky bits of tree branch to avoid. Nice little cottage. And this is a useful landmark, the M50 motorway bridge, which means I'm about 2 to 3 miles from Tewkesbury, where I'll turn on to the River Avon. I have never had so many tiny little spiders and spider webs fly into my face as I'm going along as I have on this river. It's been non-stop. I keep picking at them out of my hair, popping them down on the boat. The next thing you know, there's another one. They're just teensy tiny spiders, but what are they doing floating around in the middle of the river? 2 miles later, and this is the crucial landmark, Mythe Bridge, because as soon as I've gone under this, I need to start looking for the mouth of the Avon on the left. Look, can you see it? There. There. Of course, it's obvious really, that blind gap between the trees. The only clue is Tewkesbury Abbey, just glimpsed ahead. Coming from this direction, I need to overshoot, go wide and turn back because there is a hidden sandbank on the left, and that would be embarrassing to ground on. Trust me, there is a river to my left here. Wait for it. Wait, what's that? Suddenly, out of nowhere, this whopping great river entrance appears. And to confirm your suspicions and hopes, a little sign puts your mind at rest. You have to lock up onto the Avon, and that's the lock landing dead ahead, where that other narrowboat is moored. So I'll do a gentle scoop around and come up behind them. The lock is staffed, and you can't do it yourself, and with the lockie on lunch, I noticed my engine hours meter indicated an oil change due, so I very quickly did that. Then, with the lockie back, and the other boat having gone in, it was my turn to join them. Lots of space here for a wide turn and into the lock. Gently does it, Once you're in, the lockie takes the chance to relieve you of 50 quid, as this is not Canal and River Trust territory, but run by another lot who charge their own licence. The Bullseye gets me access for a week, but they also took another 4 quid for a river guidebook, which was quite useful and worth the spend. With my centreline being held tight for me, the automated gates behind swung closed and the water came gently in. That's the Lock HQ, a shed in the classic British tradition. And this is me getting all arty, pointing the camcorder at the convex mirror above the lock. Welcome to the River Avon. This is Shakespeare's Avon up to Stratford, not to be confused with the many other River Avons dotted around the UK, such as the one making up the Kennet and Avon Canal. The word Avon comes from the Welsh for river, which explains why there are so many of them. I nearly had to smack into the bank to get my back out of the lock, but there is space to then turn and reverse and head on to the overnight moorings. Whilst all the others I used on the river are free, these cost a £5 a night, like the ones in Stratford, which you'll see in a later vlog. That's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you're not already subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, it is free. If you hated the video, press subscribe anyway, then you won't miss another video to press dislike on. Cheerio!